title of my talk suggests, today's talk, my talk is on synesthesia, which is a collection of neurological conditions in which one cognitive pathway is involuntarily or automatically linked with another cognitive pathway. It comes from the Greek words for sensation and together, but basically in English what this means is if you were to maybe see, touch, feel or hear a certain object, it might lead to you involuntarily seeing, touching, hearing or feeling, smelling, something, everything, anything else. And those two things linked together are what basically encompasses synesthesia. So for example, some people might hear a certain sound and that sound might have a certain color. Today I'm going to talk about a few different types and also the one that I have. So another title for this talk might be how I do that weird thing I do with numbers and days of the week. So basically, there are over 60 different types of synesthesia. It's about as broad as the scale of autism. There's a few of the examples just up there. But probably the most common form is grapheme to color synesthesia, where it might be that certain people might think that numbers or letters have a certain color. So for example, 5 might be yellow, A might be red, something like that. But there are numerous different types. And the important thing is that you don't see the letter or the number as a color, it just feels like that. And the reason I can make that distinction is that I actually, as I said, have a form myself. It doesn't look like it, it just feels like it. So my weird thing that I do is that I actually have ordinal linguistic personification, in which that I actually give letters, days of the week and numbers, personality types. So depending on the number or the day of the week, it might have a different personality to me. It's governed by these two areas in the brain having a crosstalk between each other, so the cognitive pathways are linked in that sense. So for example, if I was to think of a number, for example, number 7 is quite an interesting person. I've skipped forward. So there you go. Different numbers have different personalities. And as I said, different days of the week have different personalities as well. If I was to think of a certain number, it'd have a personality. And I'll start with the first one. It is 7. It's coming up. It's a really interesting person, someone I'd like to see more often. I don't get to see enough of. I can think of a few people in my life who would be 7s as well. And then if I was to think of another number, for example, the number 3, that's quite an interesting person, but it's not quite as interesting. It's maybe someone you see quite often, maybe in your workplace or something like that. If I was to think of the number 2, that's quite a pushover, actually. Very easy to get along with, kind of boring. And if I was to think of the number 10, as logic would dictate, it's a well-rounded number, very put together, very grown up, and these are just all the ways that these different numbers feel to me. But possibly my favorite number has to be 5. It's an authoritative, father-like figure whom I've always looked up to and admired, and have a great deal of trust for. And he's coming up on the next slide. I'm just waiting for him. I'm not very good at timing. And you might recognize him. He's from one of my favorite TV shows. There we go. I had to get a Star Trek reference in somewhere. But I do the exact same thing for days of the week then. So different days of the week also have personalities, and I do have favorites, and they're kind of based on how they feel for me. So for example, a Tuesday would be an older, intelligent male. And a Wednesday would be a really bubbly, mother-like figure who kind of gets on your nerves but still makes you cookies, and she's lovely. So it's a really, really popular condition. As many as 1 in 23 people can have it. Based on the statistics of Electric Picnic, that's 1,522 people. Some people in this room could have it. I'm pretty sure there might be 3 or 4 of you, but you don't know about it until you really think. So maybe just have a think when you're going off and enjoying the rest of your older, wiser, generous sister who might buy you beer if you're underage, but will tell you not to get too messed up later on, Saturday. And have a think about all the ways in which you might be weird too. Thank you.